North Yard taxes are absurd too. I was talking to Evie's teacher. Our house isn't much bigger than ours. $13,000. Not, no waterfront.
Yeah.
No significant major acreage. That's just.
Anyway, I'm good with it. Have a claw, obviously.
All right.
God, if I do things in the wrong order, you all just tell me.
Yeah, my watch says 5:58.
Well, you're probably on time.
Phone says that, watch doesn't.
Ready?
All right, it looks like it's 6 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order on Wednesday, the 1st of July in our new fiscal year. Let's have public comments on items not on the agenda for discussion but not action. It appears there's no one else in attendance, so we'll move on. Vika, would you like to speak about the town report?
I
Thank you.
would, thank you. All right, so there are a few town reports on it. There are a number of things under the TA report. So hopefully we will receive some information from an audit firm that showed some interest, and that is all due thanks to Mark Roy, who put in a good word for us. Hopefully I'll have that for the next board meeting for the board. Next week, we are meeting with the Long Island. It's gonna be facilitated by GP They did reach out today. They wanna know a head count, so I did get an RSVP from most of you, a decline from David, so I wanna make sure that all 4 of you are gonna be in attendance, and then whether there are any dietary restrictions, because they are gonna provide lunch. So.
Unfortunately not.
Great. So that's next week, GP in Portland.
So GP has an address there,
Yes.
and what time?
It's at 12 o'clock. And the address is um. 970 Baxter Boulevard,
Baxter or Baxter?
Baxter.
And we'll take the 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So that will be that. Hook Road parking update, so I'm not gonna read through it, but, the goal is that. My goal is that hopefully by the end of July, we will have construction complete for Hook Road and Jenks Road. Stu Brown has agreed to do both of them back to back. And it is definitely more cost effective for the town to have one contractor doing them back to back, so that way we're not double charging all of the material and the equipment out here. And so we met last week with the Bicycle Coalition of Maine. They're providing us some information about whether they have any free services or reduced cost services for speed bump and things that we can put in to kind of deter traffic going faster than they should around Hook Road particularly. And so once I have a better understanding from the contractor what the timing is gonna be like, I'll definitely let folks know, and then we will distribute text alert and try to post it so that folks are aware that for a couple of days, there might be some construction going on in those areas. And then when that is implemented, we will work around making sure that there is a discussion about signage and what needs to happen around there, so. The next is HR coordinator update. So as of today, we have about 13 applicants that we've received for Andrew's position. Andrew's last day is next Monday. He is gonna come in on Monday to do his final payroll, and that will be his last day with us. I did spend last Thursday and Friday, majority of that time doing a first round of interviews with folks. We have 2 great candidates that we're gonna push forward for second round of interviews. Mark Roy has agreed to participate on those interviews for the second time around. And right now, I'm wrapping his time and I'm trying to coordinate those interviews for next Monday or Wednesday. And then since then, I've received 2 additional good-looking candidates, so I'm gonna interview them this week and then try to include them in the second round of interviews. So hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have a better idea whether we are gonna be in a position to be able to offer a position to replace Andrew and not have too major of a gap between his departure and somebody who started. So, which that's great news, definitely is a quicker process than it was last time around. Facilities committee, they had a meeting last week or 2, and their one question that they asked me that I said I would bring back to the board is they are curious whether the select board is interested in having any feedback to be provided to the committee ahead of their August meeting that they're gonna have. So they're gonna do kind of a public engagement session in August where they're gonna invite the community and explain the project to them and seek the community's feedback. All of the materials are on the town website. It's nothing new from what the board had heard back in April from David Bruner. But with them preparing for this and considering that there is one select board meeting between now and then, they are wondering whether they should bring forth something to the select board at the next meeting, or whether the select board is still in the position of get community feedback and then come back to us. So that's feedback that I'm looking forward to pass on to them.
The only question I was, we've had some discussion about, it didn't seem like the town office was getting its due in their planning. So are they going to address that? Or do we need to pull them in and say, we're willing to address that?
So that was one of the things that the select board had for feedback when you went through all of the board and committees. I had generated generated emails to all of the committees. When Carol was a chair, she reviewed them. My understanding, she has passed them on to Eliza or was going to be, and we were. In my discussion with her, we were gonna send that information out at the start of a new fiscal year, which is today. So then the committees can receive that information at the start of the new fiscal year and hopefully implement some of these changes. And that would be one of the things that they would have to consider. With their last meeting that they had, that was a discussion that came up, and I did mention that the select board is looking for the full cost of the scope of the work, as well as making sure that they really look at their charge. And the charge includes the town office, and some form of recommendation is provided. So
What do you think? What do people think about having one more presentation? So I guess I think that letter needs to be received by the chair of that board, which is Dave Bruner. And he can bring that back to the committee if need be, and it might be worth having a presentation. Because I think the board has made it clear, and I hope that as a representative on there, I've made it clear. So just to see how they want to respond to that.
As long as they see it as a reasonable request.
Yeah.
Please bring it.
It is, they've done a lot of work, they've done a lot of work, they've done a lot of time spent in planning and revisions. So just giving a good nod to the amount of work that's gone into it, especially with David sticking with it. This is his second big project. But I guess I would say yes to have them. Okay,
Agree.
thank you.
I'll let them know. Okay, and then there are just some upcoming meetings in town, closures with the upcoming holiday for the TA report. There was a transfer station and a public works report that was submitted as well. And today I did receive some information from the code enforcement officer for, permits. I don't have a report, so that information I will pass on to you in email, and then when I get a compiled and complete report, we'll add that to the next agenda. Any other questions?
On the town per diem update,
I'm sorry?
per diem update, was there one?
There is not one from Ralph, so I was in contact with him. What I can say is in his response, he said, we have most of July and August filled with Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When I look at the Google Calendar, it's not, all of those aren't filled all of the time, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have people lined up yet. But of course, what my big concern was looking at this weekend, and there's someone for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend. Ralph does the orientation when we get a new person, but it looks to me like it's 3 people, one coming twice, one coming quite a bit, and another person coming twice, so that's good. And I did ask him to give one for each select board meeting, and he responded that he would. Yeah, thank you for that.
And there was a gentleman in last Friday, and he seemed to share the rostrum well with the rest of the staff. So
There it is. Thank you all. All right, let's move on to a public hearing for special amusements and victualler license. This is for the Begun Boatyard and the Niblick. I guess as far as I could see, it was in order. Any comments?
you want to open the hearing?
Yes, I want to open the hearing. Thank you.
Yeah, seemed in order.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sure it's quite a.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
If you have any questions or comments or concerns.
I have no questions, comments, or concerns. I think the report by Ralph Monroe takes a look at things that were needed for the license. Any comments? Okay. Well, let's take it to a vote. Close the hearing. Hearing closed
6:12.
at 6:12. Thank you for the coaching. All those in favor of,
You got a regular business.
Start to regular business and then we move.
you know what, this is what I need to.
Take a motion.
Thank you. Now we'll go on to regular business. 26062 to take any action following the public hearing for special amusement victualers license. David,
Move to accept the Victor's license for the solo, or for the, what you said?
the nibble,
For the next.
should be down the vote here. Do
Sure, I don't know.
we have a second? Thank you, Erhard. Any discussion? No public comment, obviously. All those in favor? Looks like 4. There we go. Well done. Now, we're up to 26062 to take any action following the public hearing for special amusement. Oh, no, 26063 to make the following annual municipal appointments. Hey, listen, first up, it just points out to me how many jobs are taken by so many people working for the town and involved with the town, and really to give a shout out to a lot of juggling of those things. But I would really like to say publicly to you, Vika, the documentation about all of this was very helpful. And thank you very much. It puts it all in writing. So let's open up with the treasurer. Oh, okay, so tell me the best way that I go about this. Do I go each one?
So,
Can we do all?
Do I do them as?
yeah, the board can choose to do it however they feel comfortable. Typically, we clump them in such a way that you can make a motion and vote on them all together.
Okay,
If you have a specific concern about one particular appointment, you know, if you don't wanna appoint me as a treasurer or the road commissioner or any other, then you can pull that out and do it independently.
okay,
What we did is we did pull out, a separate agenda item specifically to the harbor master, which has been historically clumped in, just because that's an interim thing. But other than that, if the board feels comfortable, you can just make a motion, you know, to move to appoint the following as written and do it in one summer.
okay. Richard,
I move to accept 26-063 to make that makes the following annual municipal appointments as written.
is written.
As written.
And who's gonna second that? Thank you. All right, any comments? Not at all. It's a pleasure to have these positions filled with a lot of hardworking people who have demonstrated a lot of commitment. There we go. Any
Yeah.
comments? Any other comments? Let's go to a vote. All those in favor? There we go, 4. We're gonna take a look at 26064 with the municipal, to make the following municipal appointment of the harbor master, and this is interim. And, who would like to make that motion?
Well,
Go, Richard, go.
no, I can make a motion to accept 26-064 for the municipal appointment of the harbor master and shellfish warden Neil Hayward as an interim appointment as written.
Okay. Very good, second.
No second.
Thank you, David. Any comments?
Question?
Yeah.
Is that still on around?
Yes, it is. You don't, okay. Nope, he's been filling in, he's willing and able to do it, and.
He's been our parking attendant, he's Krista's husband.
Oh,
So all the contractors have a pretty good handle of who he is now, so he was naturally a good fit and he offered to assist the town through the transition. So what he's doing is really being a presence at the Stone Wharf and at Chandler's and double checking to make sure that the tie-ups are all paid for, that people aren't leaving their boats where they shouldn't, and having a presence down there that the office staff is not able to have through the transition.
Yeah, I've noticed him down there already, so that's wonderful. Okay, no, oh, is that good? No public comments? So let's take it to a vote. All in favor? 4? Thank you very much. Good luck to Neil. 26065, and we're looking at some municipal appointments. Who would like to make that as a motion? Richard, you're on a roll.
Oh, I'd like to move to accept 26-065, to approve municipal appointments as written.
Okay, very good.
Second.
Second by David. Comments? No? Public comments not available? Let's take it to a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. So moved. All right, now we're going to where I think Arvika did a great job of preparing us with documentation. Let's start with 26066. Just have 2 select board members on the Yarmouth Joint Standing Committee. So right now it is Carol and myself. Actually, I've yet to be at one of those meetings, but I think we have stuff coming up. And I don't have the email from Carol open that said what her preferences were, but you do.
She's happy to continue on the joint standing committee, unless if somebody else is interested.
Go to that, Eliza or you.
I'm really willing to continue on that as well. So, okay, can somebody make a motion to appoint Carol and myself?
I move to, adopt 26066 to appoint Carol White and Eliza Jane Adams to the Yarmouth Joint Standing Committee.
Second, Earhart, thank you. Any discussion? No public discussion, those in favor? Here we go, 4. Now we're looking at 2 members of the CTC committee. There's certainly is a lot of work happening there, and proudly so. Right now that's filled with myself and Richard. And I know that Carol didn't express an interest.
For the
CTC?
CTC, that was not one of them. no.
Very good.
I have the email right in front of me, so I can.
You'll just
reference
type
it.
up
Yep.
when it happens. I'm willing to continue, Richard, are you?
I am.
Okay. Anybody else interested? Okay, well, who would like to make a motion? Thank you, Earhart.
Move to appoint in 26067, appoint Eliza and Richard to the CTC committee.
Second, David?
Second.
Discussion? None? No public? Let's make a vote. Thank you, 4-0. Now, having someone on the golf committee is new, but that is definitely on the horizon and important with the work that we're looking at with the stone wharf. So at this point, there isn't anyone on that committee. But once again, in the big picture, this is going to play a big role. So for 26068, who's interested? And Earhart, you are,
So I'm on the stone.
because you're on the stone wharf.
Continue that. So.
Good. And
I'm sorry.
is Carol interested in the?
That was not one of them that was, mentioned, but I agreed to Earhart's point. I think that whoever the people that you appoint to the Stone Wharf Committee, it would make sense for the same group to be on the golf course, just because those conversations are so connected, that it might make the discussions a little bit smoother.
Can we appoint her even though she's not here?
You can do, and that was something that she wanted to send along, her willingness and interest in the things that she was interested in.
Okay,
So she didn't get assigned to too much in her absence, but
we won't overload her. Okay, so let's have it be for, somebody'd like to make a motion for Earhart and Carol?
Move to adopt 26068 to appoint Carol and Earhart to the golf course committee.
Thank you. Second, David?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? No public comment, so all those in favor? So moved. Oh my gosh, now we're gonna look at the Jenks Road and Parking Committee right now. That's being taken care of by Richard and Earhart. again, this is gonna be active not only during the construction, but we're gonna have to focus on what we need to do once those parking spots are ready. There's gonna be that whole piece about responding to the public and taking a look at what are the next steps, because we know there will be glitches and the ways that people park, and we'll need to do a good job of communicating. So who's interested? Richard, are you and Earhart willing to continue?
I say we are.
Makes sense, because we live there.
So great.
I'm not happy with it. Feel those questions.
Well, no one's gonna fight you for it. Okay,
Yeah.
David, you wanna make that?
I'll move to appoint these two gentlemen to that committee.
Okay. And second,
To get you at the same.
do I have to be the second? Second,
Yeah.
thank you. Any comments? None?
I have
Yes.
just one comment, so the Castines have reached out to me recently, and they're looking to meet in the coming weeks just to get an update of where things stand. And so, we are looking like probably the week of July 13th. Yeah, the week of July 13th, probably 16th or 17th, one of those dates, we are gonna have a brief discussion. Which in the last couple of years, maybe once or twice a year, that they've reached out and engaged in such conversations, so. I'll be reaching out to you to let you know, we typically just meet them at their house for a few minutes and they ask questions, and it's a fairly straightforward discussion, so. Expect that if
Good to know.
are gonna be on it.
You're right.
You'll be available. Okay. Thank you, Vika. Can we have that's discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand. There we go, 4, and it carries. Next is 26070 to select 2 select board members as GP cog delegates. I'm just recognizing once again Vika, she's on the executive committee. I'm really pleased with that. It gives you exposure to things happening outside of our town, and certainly you can advocate in so many ways for the needs of small towns. The current delegates are myself and Earhart. Earhart, we haven't really been very involved, but I do read their emails.
I know that Carol was expressed interest in that, correct?
No, she did not.
Did?
She said that not sure what this is and not especially interested, but we'll do it if it's my turn. The only thing about this that I did mention, because I'm on the executive committee, I do need to be officially appointed as a delegate. And so if you choose to, so I have to be one and another select board member, and then another select board as an alternate.
Okay.
So that's kind of what they expressed to me that their needs are because of my position on their committee.
You know what, Earhart, I'm glad to be the delegate. It's something that organization I've been to before. I'm glad to continue. We've used them with the housing task force. In many other ways. So, let's take a look at appointing Vika as the delegate. I would be glad to be the second delegate, and let's have Earhart as the alternate. And did somebody make a motion?
I move to accept 26070 to appoint Vika as the delegate and Eliza's
The other delegate.
the other delegate. Earhart is a alternate delegate, which he caught.
David, you want to second that? Thanks. Any discussion? Any more discussion, Vika? How often do you meet with the GP card when you do that?
Typically once a month. Now that the summer is in place, they're skipping a couple of months, but.
Yeah.
It's usually once a month, and we go over what's happening regionally. They talk about any projects that they have going. Last time we met, they were interested in seeking feedback from the board, from the members on the committee about what the committee members felt were resources that were lacking. And so one thing that I had mentioned is more shared sources for small municipalities that don't need full-time planners or full-time assessors or things like that, it would be great to have some of these small municipalities have resources where they can turn to somebody like GP cog who could provide some resources or even names or contacts of interested parties who would be willing to participate in something like that. So that's kind of some of the stuff that, and then their budget is the other part, so.
And keep in mind, this is the organization where we have Addison as our.
Yeah.
Intern.
Yeah.
So that's been
I'm
great.
just curious, since Long Island. Are they all, have it all together, or are they kind of like we are with it? You know, managing our budget and, you know, bringing in some extra staff. Have they discussed or expressed any interest in sharing resources like in some of those other positions that we have?
Absolutely, and that's what the meeting that we have next week with Long Island, in my time as the town administrator, we have engaged before in this mutual discussion. But it really didn't go far other than us talking about all of the areas where we could probably pull together, but how do you do that? Which is why this time around, having seen the success of GP cog facilitating some discussion, we agreed that having, because Long Island is also part of GP cog, they're a member, having them facilitate this discussion for us to help us determine what the needs are of the communities and how that could work. And then we'll focus on the harbor master next week. And then when summer is nearing, we'll come back together and try to engage in a more thorough discussion about where are all of the needs and what that could look like in terms of code enforcement officer, harbor master, police, things like that. So,
All sorts, yeah.
Very cool.
I think this could be a big step forward for both communities.
Yes.
And thank you. I just have a question now, Vika. When you have those meetings, is that a time when it would be helpful for one of us to be in attendance?
No.
Okay, thank you.
no, because this is, so where you would be in attendance is when there are specific reaching out to the delegates.
Yeah.
And saying, we want your presence at the annual summit, or we want your presence here. This is their version of a select board meeting with their committee grouped together and, you know, making decisions in motion. So there's no reason for select board to be there.
I think it continues to be an untapped resource that we've done a better job recently of being able to access. So, okay, any other comments? Right, no public comments. Let's put it to a vote. All those in favor? Thank you, so moved. Now we're taking a look at 26071 to have two select boards on the Stone Wharf Committee, recognizing the amazing progress that is been made quite recently and is on the horizon right now. We have Carol White and Erhard Ruthoff. I'm assuming you're willing to continue, and I want to say, Erhard, well done in your first year. And I know that's a big lift for you and Carol.
And she would like to remain as.
She would like to remain, thank goodness. Thank you, Carol White. Comments? Do you want to just give, is there anything you can add for where we're at right now?
No, I'm waiting to hear back on the, because I did the coring,
Right,
right, so that's kind of what I'm waiting to hear.
And what's gonna be for?
Well, that's a structural analysis to determine.
Yep.
How they're gonna go about reinforcing, et cetera. So I haven't heard anything, but I don't know tomorrow.
Mid-August about is when they said they should have a pretty well compiled update for us on the status of Stone Wharf, because that did delay the process a little bit in terms of scheduling and them coming out here. And so now that they have that information, they need to incorporate that into the 30% design. So hopefully by no late than mid-August, we'll be pretty close to 30% design and have a very thorough update from GEI.
so they'll have an idea of how they want to do the raising,
And how high
is
is really the,
so they were able to determine where there's bedrock, and interestingly enough, they encountered wood in one of the cores, so that tells you where things are at. Yeah. Hey, listen, I don't know who to ask, but I'll ask you, Erhard. I would like our town to have those core samples when they're done. So the core, as they do the cores, they lay them in a box with 4 in each box and they're carefully labeled. Wouldn't it be nice to have some of that? I don't know, and it's not with GEI, so it's a different company. Anyway, could I ask you to look into that?
Sure. Historical Society might.
I think the historical, I think we're gonna sell,
I can email Lisa, I mean, that's a
You
simple
can? Can
question,
you do it?
what is,
okay,
can we have the core samples?
we don't need them all. But it would be of interest to the public. It'd be fun to display those, I think. Anyway, thank you. Okay, any more discussion? Thank you for contacting Lisa.
Motion.
Okay, who's making the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Move to appoint, let's see, it's Earhart.
Yep, and Carol.
And Carol. To which committee is that?
Stone Wharf.
Stone Wharf Committee.
Okay,
A second?
second, all right. No more discussion? Thank you. And all those in favor? There we go. Carol, you're on. Next is 26072 to appoint 2 select board members to the Main Island Coalition. And right now it is myself and David Hill. And just to say, I've been on it. I was attending meetings well before I was on the select board and found that very useful. I'm glad to continue, but Carol also said that she would be glad to continue, and she is on the board of the Island Institute. So, what, David, do you wanna?
That's it.
Renee?
That's fine, if Carol would like to take my place, that's all right,
You don't mind, because you've been involved with that for a long time.
for a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and thank you for that. All right, so let's appoint Carol. I'd be glad to do it. Thank you, David.
Move to appoint Carol and Eliza Jane to the Main Island Coalition.
Second, thank you, Earhart. Any more discussion? Okay, really, David, I want to say thank you for all the time you served in the past, and there we go, okay. No comments? All those in favor? Okay, 26073 to have 1 select board member to be the liaison to the fire department, and right now this is Earhart. And given your background, that's so great.
Yeah, and
I'll just say
I
that.
work to do, so we've been getting some work done.
Good. And you're willing to continue. Okay. And it's just 1, so.
Move
Thank you.
to appoint Earhart to to be the liaison to the fire department.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? Great, those in favor? So moved. Select board member to be the liaison to the transfer station. This has been one of my favorite things, quite frankly. But my big question is, as the chair, does that mean I should be looking at being the liaison for the administration? Vika,
I would say not particularly, no.
okay.
Yeah.
Good, so we could continue with Carol in that position?
Yeah, if that's how the board, she shows interest in remaining in that. And unless there is a strong opinion on your end for wanting to be, there's no particular I mean, these are fairly new appointments within this last year. So I think that's, for all you as a board to decide, but from my opinion, I don't see a particular reason why a chair would have to be on that particular.
I do want to say that Earhart was not, to my knowledge, had not been a co-member of the liaison of the transfer station, but his name does here. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, well then, I'd like to do it all by myself. Does somebody make that appointment?
Oh.
Thank you, Richard.
I move to appoint Eliza as liaison to the transfer station.
Second.
Second. All right, any discussion? Well, that was a hot minute that you were on that committee. Already, you're voted off that island. All right, all those in favor? So moved. We need a select board member to be the liaison to the Public Works Department, and currently, this is you, Richard. Are you willing to
Be
continue?
willing to continue. Enjoyed it so far this year.
Very good, and they're doing great things. I love having their updates for all of our meetings to give us a good appreciation of what they do, and a big shout out to them. Those men work hard. Okay, who would like to make that motion? Thank you, Eric.
6076, assigning,
Richard,
sorry, fine, assigning Richard to be the select board liaison to the public works department.
Second.
thank you, David. Any more discussion? All those in favor? So moved. Now we're gonna talk about 26076 to assign one select board member, but right here, again, we have two, David Hill and Carol White, as liaisons to the administration. Do we do both or one?
It's
question.
your preference. Carol does show interest that she would like to be on it.
Okay. I like, if Carol will do it, that's great. Her working knowledge is, knows no limits, quite frankly. And David, do we let you off the hook there? Do you want
Let
to?
me off the hook, please.
Okay. Okay.
No.
Who would like to make a motion on that? Richard, you're on.
Okay, I move to appoint Carol as select board member liaison to administration.
For 26076.
26076.
And let's have you, Earhart, can you second that?
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion about that? Thank you to Carol. All those in favor? So moved. We are just cranking through this.
You are. Before you get into the brush dump discussion, one thing that did alert me in Carol's email that she mentioned, which marine infrastructure is a department that we changed from harbor master to marine infrastructure. She shows interest in being able to fill that seat. I think with all of the marine infrastructure discussions that we're starting to have, it would be good to have a liaison for that department as well. So I'm gonna ask under other business, if you could make a motion to appoint a select board member to the marine infrastructure department. So when you get through the brush dump discussion, that will be a request that I will have to see if that's an appointment that you could make under other business.
And we don't have someone as a liaison on the finance committee, is that right?
You don't, but with the finance committee, the select board has not provided liaisons unless there was specifically said in their charge that a select board member is needed as a representative. That's a committee that an area that Carol has shown interest and has participated with all of the meetings. And so I would say that if you're gonna do that with the finance committee, then you kind of revisit all of the different committee charges and keep it consistent through all of that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. I will,
The
oh, well,
reality is they normally regularly come before us
Right.
with their processing, so essentially we have that relationship.
and I'm just gonna add, I've been to a few now. And it's very helpful to understand how they're making decisions. And it gives me an even deeper appreciation for the value of what they're bringing to this town, so, okay.
I have to, I've shared that, you know, there's a lot of people, I was away, or ever had a lot of people, some of whom are business people. During this trip I was just on, and, you know, so sort of sharing about what's life like on the select board in a little town in Maine. And some really interesting conversations, but one of them I sort of walked through the finance committee, what they did. And they were like, wow, that's really excellent.
Yeah.
So, well recognized.
Yeah, in my 2 years, the difference between making decisions in the second year based on their work has been monumental. And it's a great part of adulting for the town. Okay, great. Let's move on to 26077 with a discussion of the commercial brush dump fees. And I get, we've all read this, so let's just take a look. I think it's time to take a look. I have a question right off the bat, unless you'd like to start off with a synopsis.
so there's several different documents in there. The first one is really kind of giving you a background and the reason for having this on the agenda item. And the rest of them are the original documents that were shared with you a few months ago when this discussion was brought. And the reason that it's being brought now is primarily because through the budget process, the select board did appropriate and then the town voted to raise additional funds and revenue, assuming that this is going to be implemented. And so my recommendation is that you kind of said through the budget process that it's gonna happen. And we don't wanna miss the busiest time of the season as an opportunity to start collecting that revenue. So it is something that we should try to implement sooner than later, which is why I'm recommending, let's figure this out in the next couple of weeks and make it happen by August 1st, so we don't miss that revenue that we will need to offset what we agreed and ultimately town meeting voted on for what will be raised. And it was about an additional, I believe, off memory, $20,000 that we said we were gonna raise. So that's a decent chunk, which is half of what the, anticipated cost is, or less than half, but it's still a good chunk of cash that could be lost revenue if we don't move on it.
And I also wonder if we're collecting revenue for the brush, will that change the volume that comes in when people know that they'll be paying a
So
fee?
this is specifically being recommended for
commercial.
commercial only, and I personally don't think that that's gonna have an impact on the volume. I think if we had the discussion of collective residential, I think it would have an impact. I don't foresee a big change in what's gonna come in if you're telling that the commercial entities now need to pay.
Logistically, the town and Dump are ready to implement the approved plan. Term.
So I have had conversations with Jeff about it, he's comfortable enough. The only thing that is different, in my opinion, from the last time this was brought to the board is it has been mentioned to me, and I've looked into it some, is to really make it consistent and fair is look into and invest into a scale, so then there's really no discussion of what the weight is. And I had looked into it, they vary, anything from a couple of $1,000s to $8,000 to $10,000. And really the limitation is in terms of the size of a vehicle that would go on it and how much weight that it could support. And so if that is something that the board is interested in, that would be ultimately probably a recommendation for that expense to come out of select board contingency, because it is not something that was budgeted for. And that's something that if you do support that, we will make sure that at the next board meeting, we bring thorough proposals of, specific recommendation that you would want to move forward with, so.
Go ahead.
So it just seems to me that's a reasonable cost and would pay for itself rather quickly. And will be money well spent for a scale type of thing.
My comment is I'm rather surprised it's anywhere near that low.
Yeah.
Cost, because any scale I've ever seen in any numbers would not be a small undertaking, although I think we should still do it. Usually there's sort of a concrete pit and the thing's
Right.
here and you get onto it and it's metered and then you come back and weigh again and it's, metered. I'd be surprised it was inexpensive, but even so, if we increased our revenues that much, it looks like we could pay for it over the course of the company.
Well, to also keep in mind, we were counting on using those funds to pay the cost of the chipping, which we think is gonna be 45,000.
Yeah, so any revenue we collect is gonna go into the revenue line item, and we need to make sure that we collect a minimum of $60,000 to then, collect the revenue that we assumed would be collected with something like the cost of, a weight, it would be. If the select board moves forward with it, it would be something, select board contingency is the appropriate location where that would come out. The position that it would put the select board in is, having less of the select board contingency is $30,000. So if you expend, close to half of it right at the start of the beginning of the year, you just have to be mindful. But as you saw in the last meeting, the board did really well all of last fiscal year without having to have too many major infrastructure projects. The other part is, this might be an expense that could be applicable depending on how the language is written in one of the reserve accounts. But that's not an anticipated cost, and so I would be less likely to ask the select board to put it out of the reserve account, considering how much work the finance committee has put into really trying to make sure that the reserve accounts are used based on assumed and planned expenses in preparation to the budget. So there's a couple of different areas that the expense could happen. And to Erhard's point, it very well could be more. It's just kind of looking very briefly and not putting too much effort into it. They're just, basic two-wheel scale that they drive off on, but it does really depend on how heavy of equipment you want on them that could increase the cost. So if that's an interest of the board, Public Works and I can definitely put more time and effort into investing, the town's time to look into that and come back with a more formal proposal. If that's something the board wants to look into.
There have been some discussions just about needs at the transfer station for the future, right? Maybe some restructuring or expansion. I don't know what those conversations involve. I was kind of heard that in the background. But this might be something that would fall into that category, because that's gonna be a capital
Right.
improvement project in the future. I'm just looking quickly at truck scale, somewhere starts anywhere from 35,000 up to over $100,000. That's what I would have expected.
Okay.
So I think it's a pretty big ticket item.
It is a big ticket item, and I want to say that having to rely upon the judgment of one employee who might have other people filling in for them on the volume, I think our employee did a great job of doing a study of the cubic yard estimations and the weight. But I think anytime that we can make it less judgment and more data points is a better plan for how we're gonna run things. So I'd like to ask that we look into what it would cost to have a scale so that we can make a good informed decision. This doesn't preclude us from starting August 1st
Right.
with the estimated, starting off with that estimated, it really would be a nice to see how it changes, how accurate that is. But that's a little future piece, but I like the idea of having scale, and I think that's good for our employees, and I think it's good for fairness.
The way that it would be measured now is very similar to the way that construction and debris is measured.
Yes.
Could you expand a little bit on, you said there's a range for the scales as to what does which?
Cost.
So
Which one
the
you would
ones, so
recommend?
Public Works look into some of them. These aren't like high end. This is more of, I think to Erhard's point, looking thoroughly and having a large investment is one thing, but if you're trying to be more fair, looking at something reasonable now, there are scales that Tanner looked into and I looked into that could vary and could be as low as $10,000, where there are two scales that they drive their front tires on or their back tires,
Okay.
something like that. And it gives you a tonnage, and then you use that tonnage to figure out what the charge is, because
Okay.
it's based on the weight.
So it does mean the employee would need to measure them going in and measure them going out. But that, again, gives a precise amount.
Yeah, that is the issue. There's a lot of people coming in with trailers, so that's a little different than vehicles.
Right.
So, but
Well,
yeah, we can make it work.
We'll find out.
Yeah,
All right. Does this become a motion, or do we just ask?
So it depends on how you wanna take it, so based on the, the memo that I provided, I'm hoping that the board can kind of commit to a timeline of when the fees could be implemented and support everything that's being provided here. And then at the July 15th meeting, the goal is to hopefully have a final board action where you adopt the fee structure and the rates, approve the policy and kind of confirm the implementation of it and the starting date. So I wanted this to be a discussion without you feeling pressure that you have to make a decision tonight. But July 15th is the last scheduled meeting prior to August 1st. And then there is, at the moment, one meeting in August, which is middle of August. So to keep in line with the discussion that the board had of kind of limiting board meetings during the summer, not increasing them, this would be the timeline you would have to work with. If this timeline doesn't work for the board, then in order to implement the fee structure sooner than later, the board always does have the option to just have a meeting as long as it's 3 business days scheduled and agenda posted ahead of time, so.
So
Richard?
reading through this, as I understand, you have essentially 2 recommendations, essentially option A and option B. Is this the decision we're being charged with figuring out what's the best way to do it?
I think we already talked about that, didn't we?
So what, other than that, what is it that?
We're looking at can we work within this timeline first? So
Yeah.
let's take a look first at the proposed timeline, which I actually think this sounds great. I think we need to have a good plan for the outreach to contractors, making sure the community understands. And I think by communicating it to the community, that doesn't place it all upon our contractors.
Right.
That I think that's important, yeah. So we would need to come up with a good plan, I think, to communicate that to the community. But let's first take a look at, can we all live with this timeline? I certainly can.
Yeah.
So I'd support it.
Yes.
You do too, Earhart?
Yeah.
And I hear David agreeing too?
Yep.
Okay,
And it is my understanding that the contractors who are the primary users of the brush dump are all aware that this discussion took place a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And actually, when I started as a town administrator 4 whatever years ago it was, this was one of the first discussions, and we invited the contractors at that point to Public Works, had the discussion with them. At that point, the fee implementation wasn't the issue, it was closing the brush dump, so they didn't have 24/7 access. That has since been done, they've adapted to it, they've accepted it, they now use the brush dump around business hours, which allowed the town to be able to have a better understanding of what kind of load comes and goes. And so there would be some discussions with them, certainly, and letting them know. So they can prepare for the anticipated cost, but I don't think any contractors are gonna have this as a surprise.
okay. We're not gonna approve the fee structure and rates until July 15th.
Okay.
Earhart?
Okay, what do we hope to accomplish in that discussion between now and then that we can't accomplish today? I'm just wondering. For the fee structure, because it seems like subject matter experts are saying option A is our best, and this came before us before.
Right.
I'm not sure, do we have any additional questions on answering questions? Because if we don't, why could we not go with the recommendation?
I like that idea. I think we talked about it enough. Jeff was present when we talked about it. That was his preferred. I believe Carol was in agreement as well. So if we can we agree now to move ahead with, do we call it table 1?
You like the option 1 where we're charging $42 per cubic yard and then have $150 annual commercial permit?
Yeah.
So all the commercial entities will basically register with the town at a one-time annual fine of $150. And then every time they come in, they would be charged $42 per cubic yard.
I don't see.
Option two was a tiered program that would be a little bit harder to manage.
It's difficult to manage, and I think that, once again, we're getting started with this by cubic yard. Hopefully, we'll be moving towards having the scale,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Think of all the things we could weigh. This is gonna be, we'd like to weigh all sorts of things on our new scale, but we're not gonna go there, sorry, I digress. Okay, so let's agree that we can go with, option A.
Sure.
All right, and that we are going to, take a look at having this implemented for August 1.
Mhm.
We'll come up with a plan, and I'm assuming do I get to do that with you since I'm the liaison, Vika? Make a
For
flyer?
transportation, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll reach out to the contractors and have a conversation with them between now and then, encourage them to attend the meeting where this decision is gonna be voted on.
Yeah.
The sample policy that I have in here that I had drafted up does really kind of provide terms and use and then we would incorporate the fee structure, so this would be an opportunity for them to weigh in, and knowing that you're going for option A is helpful because that's something that we can communicate with them. And then we can bring back that feedback to the next meeting, and hopefully some of them will be in attendance to speak publicly themselves.
Yeah,
And
great,
then you can make a decision then.
okay,
I like it.
sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we making a motion? Are we done? It's a discussion.
You want to set a specific direction for me that ties in with a motion, I have enough information to go with. And it is the July 15th where I will be asking for specific motions.
Okay.
Well, it was good homework done on getting this one right,
Sure works.
so that's great. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments from the boards? No? Thank you very much. Well, it looks like Carol will be here at any moment. But
Set time to use this very infrastructure.
it is,
One of the quickest meetings we've had.
I know.
We'll wave to her on our way out.
Okay. Well, we're now into other business, and let's just see if we can appoint Carol as the liaison to the marine infrastructure. So does this need a number, Vika?
It does not need a number, but just a motion to appoint Carol White to be the department liaison for Marine Infrastructure Department.
Can somebody say so moved?
So moved.
Thank you, David. Richard is gonna second that. Well, let's vote quickly before she gets here.
Yeah.
All those in favor, no discussion? No discussion. All those in favor?
Sounds good.
She's in.
Great.
All right. What do we have for communications? Vika.
I have a few, so, one is I've been in contact with two different, businesses relative to, so we have been approved for a DOT grant through, the state of Maine to fund up to $80,000 for, the commercial float replacements.
Good.
If you recall, several months ago, I applied for that. So I have two contractors that I'm lining up to have them come out and visit and give us a quote. And then hopefully, build those in the near future, because the commercial floats as they sit now are in they need to be repaired. Coastal Waters did have plans in their, plan to repair them. We applied for the grant to try to expedite the process to repair them at a more of an emergency basis. So that's been kind of an ongoing thing, so that will be happening.
Vika, can I just clarify, the commercial floats are the one just beyond where the CTC ferry
Correct,
lands?
so the ramp that connects the CTC and the commercial floats, that is due to be replaced, the two commercial floats. And then the piles that are holding the commercial floats.
Or not?
Right now.
Exactly. So that's been communication that I've had back and forth, so hopefully by the next select board meeting, we'll have more information set in place for that. I did communicate with Casco Bay Lines, they have reached out. They had some divers that went down off of Chandler's dock and they have discovered 6 pallets, 6 cages and 8 carts. And so they had heard through the grapevine that the town had discussions about possibly putting up some cameras to monitor theft and vandalism, and they were wondering to know where that stood because they would like those on Chandler's dock seen as, because like these cages and these carts are a inexpensive investment for Casco Bay Line, so finding so many of them in the water is a big concern for them. And so I explained where the camera situation stood and encouraged them to reach out to DOT because it is a state property. So if the state decides to choose, put up cameras on their property, that's, you know, a discussion that, the select board could certainly weigh in on. But that was a communication that was shared with me, just, you know, wanting to make sure that the town was aware that they're concerned about the fact that so much of their, equipment and material is being pushed into the water off of Chandler's dock.
It's not safe at all for the boats landing there in addition. And I believe that was cleared out last year as well.
Yes,
Fire.
so these are new discoveries, just within this year. Last summer, somebody went, the divers, so I think the divers that were doing this kind of on their own personal interest. They pulled a bunch of them out last year. Casco Bay Lines took what was able to be taken and then, what wasn't, it just got left. So we ended up, working with them to dispose of that. And so I did explain to them that if this does get pulled out, that preferably it would be great if Casco Bay Lines dealt with it, and if the town of Shebig, even though it is, you know, residents or visitors of town of Shebig who are likely causing this, you know, it shouldn't be a financial responsibility of the town's taxpayers to dispose the equipment and property that belongs to Casco Bay Line, and they were totally fine with that.
My
question is just, I mean, since it's state DOT property, correct?
The dock is.
The dock is, so if they choose to put cameras on there for security purpose, it's their jurisdiction, it's not our.
Correct.
So we would have no duty other than perhaps to notify the public on the island that this is in
Yeah.
force.
Yeah, and if the town wanted to weigh in and provide their opinion on behalf of select board, you could, but it is a decision of the state with whatever they choose to do on that dock.
So you will, or they through you will keep us informed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And given the conversation that we've had here a couple of times with public input, we'd want to make sure the public knew
Right.
if DOT was moving in that direction. I will say, I know that the divers were there today. They were there with their equipment and going down, so it'd be interesting to see what they've come up with.
Literally.
Thank you.
And then just 2 other communications that I would like to share. So we went through the interview process with Island Institute. And have successfully offered a position to a young man who was interested in taking over Lorent's position. So we have a fellow lined up, so we'll start the process and he will take over towards the end of August when she is done. So that is great news and timing worked out great with that. And then the
Can I
other.
just add something about that?
Sure.
It was really, when the Island Institute was able to look at the candidates they had through this past year. And we're back in contact with him to see, because knowing what this position was, his background fit particularly well with what we're looking for. It's clear he loves comprehensive plans in different manners, so it was like, that was just a real good point in his direction, so I think we were all pleased. And glad that his references turned out as well as we expected.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
That's
Thank you,
all good
Vika.
news. And then, the other communication I wanted to share is I had received a phone call and then a follow-up email from Patty Train, who is a resident of Long Island, and she is, so she is a representative, who is, on a committee that was established by the state of Maine as the Commercial Fishing Remembrance Day. And so what she's looking for is permission. They have dedicated July 1st as the day that is gonna be the official day in the state of Maine for Maine Commercial Fishing Remembrance Day. And so what they're looking for is, they are gonna be going around the state of Maine and placing, wreaths on memorials. And so Shabig, if you recall down at Chandler's, there is a location, and so it is town property, so they want to know if it is okay for them to be able to place that. I said that I have no objections, but I can certainly check with the select board. And through discussions, she thought that either Melissa Dowdy or Donna Damon were interested in laying that, and so I wanted to pass that on to the select board to see if the select board had any opposition to me to just reach out to her and say, that's fine. You're welcome to place a wreath there, and whoever wants to do it, there's no concerns from the town, unless the town is interested in going in whatever other direction. Which,
I mean, the only thing I would think is as long as they're doing that, make sure the public's aware. I don't know if they're planning to do like a little ceremony or something. I'm sure if you get Donna involved, we'll have some kind of ceremony.
yes, I kind of thought the same, that if Donna would like to do that, she's definitely been a big advocate for that she would be a great person to,
But we also have representatives with the Maine Fishermen's Association out here. I believe Jeff Putnam and Alex Todd have been involved with that. Like our fishermen here are very involved with those state organizations. And I think we all share a concern that there have been campfires down adjacent to what is such an important piece of our history and acknowledgement. So I think that would bring good attention to the fact of what that really means.
Yeah.
And so that might be a good solution to having people appreciate. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great way to address.
so I'll
That
suggest that
situation.
I'll say there's no opposition, but suggest that maybe they advertise so the public is well aware. Well, we can
Yeah.
assist in that as well as the town, and then try to involve some of the local fishermen.
Yeah. And Vika, am I correct? This is for next July 1st?
This is for July 21st,
Oh,
so
the
like this is,
21st. Oh,
yeah,
even
this
better,
is coming up.
coming up.
And they just wanna be able to, so they do have ceremonies scattered throughout the state, Lubec and Booth Bay Harbor. As well as wreath laying at commercial fishing memorials. And they would like to include Shabig Memorial and place a wreath there. That's really kind of,
I guess I'd like to see it be, can we have one of those here? And would that be organized by Hattie Train, or would that be organized by our island? I mean, she certainly knows all the fishermen.
she does, I can certainly ask, but
Okay,
in talking to her on the phone, I didn't get any indication that they're trying to organize anything other than coming and placing a wreath just for the recognition.
okay,
I think there's probably people who jump all over that.
Yeah.
She can reach out to them.
But I'll definitely connect with her and pass all this information on.
okay, so let's all of us reach out to people we know who are fishermen. And let's just see, maybe it should be brought up at the marine infrastructure meeting. What is that next year?
The Coastal Waters Committee,
Coastal Waters.
that's not until the end of July.
Well, that was,
Yeah.
okay, well, there's another idea that doesn't work.
And with this, Coastal Waters
I know.
Commission, they're specifically for marine infrastructure. I would, with how much they have and the recommendation that we've laid out for them, I would like them to focus on
Okay,
that.
say no more. All right.
So this is Patty Train is a resident of Long Island and she's on the committee. Maine Commercial Fishing Remembrance Day.
Yep.
So,
Patty Train was the harbor master for Portland. She grew up in Long Island. She actually trained with the EMTs here. And, so she does it.
alright, I'll connect with her.
Okay, I'm gonna add, if you don't mind, I'd like to add this in. What's her position called?
She's on the planning team.
Of what?
And it's called Board of Directors of Green and White Hope, a nonprofit organization helping coordinate this statewide effort.
Got it.
So
Okay. Thank you very much. What else do you have?
probably things that I'm forgetting, but that's everything that I have. Right now. And I guess follow up, the sunken boat has been removed from stone wharf, so I know that was a communication from last week, so.
I've had people asking me about what's this parking situation now it's July 1st. And I meant to go down, 'cause I don't really remember how we left it, is resident parking enforced, is the June to November spot, 100% pickup, or some of it's parking. I meant to check, but has that been signed off?
I believe we sent out a text alert last week or early this week, directed people to the town website where all of and Krista really outlined all of the information in detail about what the current process is. We have ordered some additional signage to put up down there. Currently where the fisherman area is Memorial Day to Labor Day, it is loading, unloading only, so there is no parking. For this summer, during Labor Day, Memorial Day through Labor Day, the resident parking is not implemented in that space.
Yeah.
So it's more or less, but contractors, regardless of the time of the year, are still required to park on the Stone Wharf Road parallel parking. So,
I just was, I didn't get, I don't think I got the message, but I didn't even know how to answer it, and whether we had decided to do half of it for some parking. or not.
if you get any parking related questions, I would recommend that they either reach out to me directly. Or on the town website, there is a specific link with all of the current.
But we do have signage ordered, so that'll help.
We had ordered additional signage, yeah, because that was one of the feedbacks that we have received from some repeated offenders is. You don't have any signage, so we ordered signage.
Yes,
And by the way, people have adapted quite well.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
They got,
People have
It's
adapted.
hard.
I think
people
it's,
ask me, and I say, well, some people love it and some people hate it. And
but it seems much safer and.
absolutely.
And I think I still see people going at this time of year down the neck to pick up stuff. But for the most part, people are parking right along in that spot to
Yeah.
pick up and
I
drop.
went, last Wednesday, I went down there to pick up the code enforcement officer, and when I got down there. There was one other car parked in the fisherman loading, unloading, but there were already 3 cars that had backed up.
Yeah,
But they backed up in a way where they were blocking a fisherman who was actively currently in the moment working there. So if he needed to get out with his load, there was no way for him to get out. The sheriff was down there, and what I suggested to him is when he's down there, when he sees vehicles attempting to go there, that if they could be redirected and first come. I think when people first arrive there, they wanna be in the most convenient spot to get out as quickly as possible, and that often creates congestion. And so I asked him, while he's down there, to ask people to park in those spaces first, and when those get filled up, to, have people park elsewhere. And he suggested that, he might even get some cones, so when he's down there, he can kind of cone off that area. So it could discourage, because in that moment, there were fishermen actively working and people were pulling up to try to get the closest parking spaces. And in my conversation with him, I either had, I even had a resident approach me and provide their feedback and suggestion kind of in a little bit of a confrontational way, tell me that they're parked there because there were no other parking spaces, but it's, I came down and there was nothing there, so it is an ongoing learning curve that I think is gonna take time for people to adapt to, and hopefully by the time that the stone work is improved and that final implementation is what has to happen, people will be able to follow suit that process a little bit easier, having had this experience for a couple of years leading up to it.
So just for my clarification then, so any freight loading, we don't want anyone backing down the neck.
What's that?
For loading freight, like people bring, refrigerators, whatever, bringing heavy stuff or heavy lumber, we don't want anyone backing down the neck there?
So what we're trying to encourage is when people are driving down to pick up folks,
Yeah.
that they first pull into those, and that's kind of what I experienced that day. It wasn't a lot of people with heavy things. It was just people trying to get the closest spot to the
Got
boat. And so I think there's gonna be times and there's gonna be reasons where people are gonna have to back up, whether it's to assist somebody who cannot physically walk the distance, or to put in heavy freight, but I think for kind of the average person, just picking up somebody getting off the boat who
Yeah.
is capable, that's where we're trying to redirect them.
So I think good judgment prevails. And let's hope that people take advantage of that. Good comment. Any other communications? No. All right.
I did just get a message from Carol. She sent it over in the skip and she said, see you shortly. So I just
Well,
let her
we'll
know
be
it's
done.
about to
Yeah, we're
enter
gonna-
executive session.
Okay.
So,
Well, let's take a look at approving the minutes of June 17. Does anyone want to make a comment or make a motion? To approve. Thank you, Richard.
I move that we approve the minutes from June 17th, 2026.
Thank you. Second. Thank you, David. Comments? Thank you. Thank you, Chris. All in favor? Dave, raise your hand. Okay, we got 4. Good. Okay, let's talk about items to be placed on a future agenda. So we will be bringing up, the transfers, the brush dump commercial fees.
Mhm.
What else do we have, Binka?
Facilities committee, you would like them to come back for the
Oh, right.
next meeting.
Yeah.
In addition to that, a new facilities committee, select board member will need to be appointed. To replace Liza. We will have a proposal from GP Cog. For the traffic study for Bennett's Cove. Which they had provided a proposal right towards the end of, well, on the Friday leading up to the last meeting, I had several questions just because it does discuss talking about the use of cameras. And so I met with them and we really went through detail about the different proposals that they should be presenting and outlining how each recommendation, what kind of outcome you're gonna receive from it. So if you're, looking for a full detail scope of what kind of traffic is coming and going to Bennett's, whether it's commercial vehicles, traffic, bicycles, things like that. That will require a little bit more intense record keeping versus if you put a strip and just count, the cars. So that will be coming in front of you at the next select board meeting as well.
Great. Anything else? For the next meeting agenda?
Things will come up.
Things will come out, we know that. Okay, may I suggest we all have a stretch break? We'll bring this to a conclusion, and when Carol arrives, we'll enter into executive session.
Good.
So we'll end this meeting. Thank you. I hope people are listening. Thank you.